Hello friends, in this video we are going to discuss about the relevant changes made by the GST Council in the meeting held on 22nd June 2024. There have been some extremely pertinent changes and some relief measures which have been adopted by the government and it is soon going to become effective. Let's understand the recommendations which have been made. The first and the foremost amendment which is proposed to be made is for the waiver of interest and penalty for all demand notices for the period 1718, 1819 and 1920 if they have been issued under 73 and the tax demand has been paid up to 31st March 2025. Now the question comes in whether this notice is applicable for those cases for which the demand has already been paid. To my understanding, we are yet to see the fine print of the notification, but according to me, seeing the past, it may not be so. So, only for those cases who are continuing the litigation as on date, for them, this might be applicable. So, question comes in whether this would be applicable only after the order is issued or before the show cause notice or after the show cause notice. To my mind, it would be applicable for all situations whether or not we have filed an appeal. So in few cases the matter is pending at SCN stage, some of them before SCN stage, some of them are pending after the order stage. In all of these cases, ideally this recommendation should be effective, but we should wait for the fine print to come in. So it is recommended that anyone who is wanting to pay any of these demands for all these years, if the notice was under 73, they should wait for the fine print because their interest and penalty might get waived off completely. So this is a welcome amendment which I think is going to have a lot of consequences on litigation for these 3 years. A lot of people might want to pay up the demand given that the interest and penalty, which was a huge burden, will now not be applicable. So this would be there till 31st March 25. So anyone who has even filed an appeal and let's say made pre-deposit, for them also they might pay the difference for the tax amount and get the cases waived off. So let us see how this amendment is going to affect us, and we should not take any decisions till the fine print of this comes in. Once the fine print comes in, then we should definitely try and evaluate the cost benefit of continuing the litigation vis-a-vis making the payment of the tax demand. Second, again, biggest area of litigation under GST was 16.4, where a person is filing his March return after the September of the next financial year, which was resulting in a huge amount of ITC getting blocked because the 16.4 time limit would have lapsed. We have seen number of decisions coming from different high courts in different uh, aspects on this particular point. Some of them have been in favors, most of them have been against the SSE. Patna High Court, Calcutta High Court, Andhra Pradesh High Court, all of them have intervened. But now this is going to be a welcome relief that anyone who have availed ITC till 30th November 21 for any of these 4 financial years, for them this is a welcome relief that this ITC would now stand allowed. So even if someone has availed their ITC later, I believe this would be something which would be helpful to all of us. Having said this, 16.4 also talks about the due date of annual return as the due date. So we have to see how 16.4 gets amended. If anyone has availed ITC after the annual return, whether that would also be deemed to be extended till 30th November 21 has to be seen. Next, for revocation of cancelled registration, a lot of people had their registration cancelled and it took a lot of time for them to get their registration cancellation revoked, as a result of which the time limit under 16.4 would have lapsed. For them, again, this is a welcome relief that they can now avail ITC within 30 days of the order of revocation. If they have done so, in such cases, if they have filed their returns and have their revocation done, in such cases, the ITC time limit 16.4 would still be helpful to them. This amendment would also be coming in. Next, a very important amendment with regard to RCM. A lot of people have paid their demands under Section 73 for RCM after the due date of the relevant financial year. So let's say for 18-19, if I am paying my RCM liability in 24-25, would the ITC be available? This was a question mark. But this has been now clarified that the time limit for availment of ITC is as per the invoice date. In case I am availing RCM supplies from unregistered suppliers, it is the recipient who would be liable to issue the invoice. So in such cases, it is the recipient who would be able to avail the ITC as and when he is issuing the invoice. So if I am issuing the invoice for 18-19 in 24-25, in such cases ITC would be available. Having said this, if the ITC was taken from registered parties and it was paid under RCM, in such cases this relief may not be existent. Next, now the pre-deposit, the department has decided to reduce to a great extent for appellate tribunal. For appellate authority also, the maximum amount of pre-deposit, which was 50 crores, has been reduced to 40 crores. The limit of 10% pre-deposit remains the same. If I go before the appellate tribunal, that is the second appellate authority, the limit which was 20%, I had to pay 20% in order to get my demand stopped. Now I need to pay only 10% and I can file an appeal before the appellate tribunal. For filing department appeal, now the monetary limit has also been prescribed, where it is now going to be 20 lakhs. If the department is filing an appeal against its own order, it would be 20 lakhs, 1 crore for High Court, 2 crores for Supreme Court. So this is the limit which is being prescribed by the department for their own appeals. So pre-deposit is definitely going to help a lot, and given that the tribunal is soon going to be established, this is going to be a huge and welcome relief in terms of the cash flow. Next, the time limit for filing appeal before the appellate tribunal, though it was prescribed through circular, now the provisions of the law would be amended so that as per the act, if I have filed my appeal within 3 months of the appellate tribunal, in such cases the relief would be applicable for me. Now, the amount available in the electronic cash ledger on the due date of filing 3B and is debited while filing would not be calculated while calculating interest. So that means in a lot of cases, again, the decisions have been in favor and against the SECI till now for this issue, that if, let's say, on the due date of filing 3B, I have got sufficient amount of balance in my GSTR 3 electronic cash ledger, in such cases, whatever balance is there in my cash ledger, it would not be counted towards calculating interest. So interest would be only applicable if I am not having sufficient balance in the cash ledger as well as I have delayed my return. So if I have not delayed, so if I have delayed my return, I have got sufficient amount covered through my electronic credit ledger and through my cash ledger. In such cases, I don't need to pay any interest liability. So interest would be applicable only if the cash balance is not there and the credit is not covering it either. Also, now what the department is doing is they are from 24-25 wanting to extend the time limit for uh, 73 and 74 notices. So both for 73 and 74 notices, the department is wanting to extend the time limit and want to make the same time limit. So 74A is a new section which is going to be prescribed for extending this time limit, and now for non-fraud and fraud cases, the time limit would remain the same. Also, there are a lot of cases when there are certain contraventions of the provisions of law, but the regular trade practices are in a situation where there is no tax levied or short tax levied. There is a lower tax rate which is being followed by the industry as a whole. In order to give relief to this to the industry beyond the powers of the law, the government would have the powers to allow regularization of any situation where tax has been not paid due to common trade practices. So earlier the government used to give circulars which was not the right practice, because circulars cannot override the law. So through circulars they used to provide such relief. Now through the act they would have the power to prescribe any such situation where they want to regularize any default in taxes due to common trade practices. Also, if I am having a refund under exports, normally only on the original invoice I would get the refund, uh, and particularly for export with payment of tax, I could not get any refund if I have made an upward revision of prices. From 100, I have increased the prices to 110. Ideally, my refund should have been on 110, but it used to be on 100 rupees. So now on the in upward revision in prices, the additional IGST refund would also be available. Next, biometric based Aadhaar authentication has been till now prescribed in Gujarat and Pondicherry. Over there, the government had made a pilot project to make sure that anyone who is making a registration application now would have to have their biometric authentication done, because a lot of people used to take Aadhaar number of other people and get the GST registration done, so which resulted in a lot of fake registration and fake invoicing. So to curb this practice, they have started with a physical Aadhaar based authentication. So a facilitation center would be there where a person would be going and getting his Aadhaar authenticated. Without this, the registration would not be prescribed. So this is again going to be a welcome relief for curbing fake invoicing. Also, uh, the time limit which is going to be prescribed till now under 73 and 74 for reduced penalty is 30 days. So if I make payment within section 73 within 30 days of the show cause notice, no penalty was applicable, and for 74 cases it used to be 25%. Now this reduced penalty would be applicable if I'm making payment within 60 days. So again, this is going to be a extremely relevant relief for the industry. Also, now GSTR 1, if I make any mistake and I realize that mistake after filing GSTR 1 but before filing 3B, I did not have any option but to correct that mistake in my 3B to avoid any interest liability. In order to make sure my 1 and 3B are in line, and if I find out any mistake in my GSTR 1 after my GSTR 1 due date but before my 3B due date, I can still make amendment through a new optional facility through GSTR 1A, which is going to be prescribed, through which I can now get my liability auto populated in 3B. So my GSTR 1 and 1A would ensure that my GST returns are in line with each other. So GSTR 1 and 3B would be matching with each other. So if I make any amendment through 1A, my 1 and 3B would be in line with each other. Last but not the least, even for B2C interstate, the time limit is now the limit which was earlier prescribed for reporting of the invoices was 2.5 lakhs, and if the supplies was interstate. Now this limit has been reduced from 2.5 lakhs to 1 lakh. So any interstate supply above 1 lakh rupees, I would have to now report on invoice level basis, not on summary basis in my GSTR 1. With this, I would like to thank each and every one of you for giving me an extremely patient hearing on this topic. Thank you so much.